Well, hey there. Hope everyone's doing well today. My name is Josh, or I go by Carpo, but this video might be seen by other parents or people who are having let's just say, a similar issue as the one that I've been having with my own kids regarding COVID and going to school over the past couple of years. So, I wanted to take a moment to just kind of unload some of my thoughts and my frustrations about what I think to be a big mistake that we're making by continually keeping kids masked. And before you think I'm a right wing conspiracy theorist or that I'm going to go into talking about shots, I have no intention to talk about any of that. I'm going to leave that for the YouTube algorithm to sort out and delete all the other people that talk about that. I'm specifically talking about these things today. And the reason being because I have a good reason. Now, as an adult, yeah, I know there's a lot of controversy over wearing a mask. This stupid little piece of neoprene. I actually really like this one over the other ones, but you put it on, you go in the store, you leave. The other day I went to the store, I didn't have it. Oh well, I just went in and shopped and felt like a pariah. It's not that I am a slave to what other people are telling me to do. It's that I believe that maybe, just possibly, it would cut down on transmission a slight bit, because that's what we've been told for the last 2 years. And some masks may. N95s. But more specifically, and not to get off topic, I want to talk about the kids. And the reason being because about an hour ago I had to go pick up my son from school because he coughed a couple times in class. Now, he knew going to school you don't cough in the year 2021. And he had felt a little sick the other day, and he was under the weather, not COVID, just a cold of some sort. But so it was kind of a, after cough. I don't know how sick he really is, but the point being that they called me and I had to pick him up, and it was frustrating because it was the second time in like a week. Last time they made him stay out for 2 days because he had a stomach ache. And I was kind of frustrated with the guy. I said, I know you just work here, but hey, this is kind of ridiculous to make him stay out for 2 full days just because of a slight stomach ache. But anyhow, went along with it. Then this time I picked him up and he said, well, since he coughed, we're going to have to keep him out for 10 days. I'm like, whoa, wait. And, he's like, well, unless he takes a COVID test. I'm like, fine. Take the stupid test on Monday morning. Let him get back to school. Let kids get back to school to do what they want to do. And I understand that schools have to be vigilant. But as the years have gone on, more and more research has come forward to show that schools are not large vectors of spread. Rather than adjusting with the new scientific information that we're getting, we're taking what some would just call precautionary measures. And I'm talking about this because as a parent of a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old who are both in school right now, they missed an entire year last year. I mean, 2nd and 6th grade, completely gone. The Zoom did not cut it. Kids need to interact with other kids. Kids need to go there and see their teachers. But now that they are back, in a lot of places, they can't even see the teachers' faces. And I think in-person learning is extremely important, especially for preschool through 2nd grade, where the kids are learning how to speak and they need to read the teacher's face. And I know this has been made to sound like right-wing propaganda, some Fox News crap. I don't watch any of that. This is just common sense to me. But all of this has been so tied up in politics that people are unwilling to even discuss it without getting angry or taking a huge stance on something. We pay taxes on these schools. My oldest son is 26 now, okay? He went to the same elementary school that my other kids did. My other son's in middle school now, but my youngest is still in 3rd grade. My oldest, we moved here almost 18 years ago, and we paid taxes ever since. And even last year, they went up something like $1,200 a year. Insane. But we're forced to pay it. And we expect the schools to, of course, perform as schools should perform. But beyond that, that the parents, the adults in the room, should be able to have a say on what goes on in these schools. And a lot of the parents who oppose mask mandates, for example, have been labeled as, even terrorists by some. Murderers. How could you be against this? How could you want people to die from a disease? And I've thought this through a lot over the last couple of years, trying to see where people are coming from on both sides of the aisle. Being somebody who's in the middle, who understands that kids, yes, they do need to see faces, but they also need to be exposed to certain germs. They're still going to get sick. My kids wear masks at school and they still bring home colds. It's just how it is. But the mask studies really don't exist. And so before I continue, I'd like to read this from two different points of view. One is from Scientific American, and I'll get to the other one. And by the way, I respect Scientific American. Although I may not agree with this article, it's not because they're wrong. It's only because it's incomplete. So I'll read both points and explain why people are having such issues with this. And the Scientific American article says, masks protect school kids from COVID, despite what anti-science politicians claim. Now, it's disappointing that they have to not only call it anti-science, but knowing that they're talking about Rick DeSantis. And that's why people don't want to even understand or discuss it, because it relates to a politician. But it says here, many studies show that they are wrong. Okay. On July 30th, and this is a couple months ago, but I think this was about a month ago this was posted. On July 30th, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis issued an executive order barring local school districts from requiring their students to wear masks. Skip. It says, they maintain that there was no evidence of masks preventing infection in schools, issuing a statement that the ruling was not based on science and facts. The order is currently being appealed. DeSantis is wrong, and so is Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who banned schools in his state from requiring masks. So it goes on, and here's their science, okay? It says, from Scientific American, by the way, for starters, laboratory experiments show that masks block the respiratory droplets and aerosols that transmit SARS-CoV-2, the virus that causes COVID. In one test, mechanical engineer David Rothermer and his team at the U of Wisconsin-Madison used a machine in a classroom to pump out particles of the same size as those that carry the virus. Then they put them on CPR dummies wearing masks. You see where this is going, okay? So this was done in a room using these, masks with these dummies. It reduced the chances of penetration by 382 times when compared with going maskless, according to a study. Now look, we understand this, okay? If you're pumping an aerosol at a mask, these are the studies that we all looked at the beginning. And mind you, I still wear a mask in certain places. It may be only a 0.3 chance, but hey, it's a chance that you can protect yourself. But it goes on to say, masks significantly reduce viral transmission. Several epidemiological studies also indicate that masks in schools work. Now, by the way, just says several studies. Researchers at the ABC Science Collaborative have collected data from more than 1 million K-12 students and staff members in North Carolina, which mandated masking. The scientists reported that little in-school transmission over the fall and winter and summer months. Incidents remained low, even as communities outside the schools, cases fluctuated and mitigation strategies shifted. When we look at cases that have masking in place, so masking students, staff, and everyone that's in a K-12 setting, we see rates of within-school spread as low as 1%. So then it goes on to compare it to other states where they didn't do that. So that's the pro-mask in schools. Now here's from another thing. This is the New York Intelligencer. Let's just take a completely different viewpoint. The science of masking kids at school remains uncertain, is what it's titled. Now this is from August 20th of this year. At the end of May, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention published a notable yet mostly ignored large-scale study of COVID transmission in American schools. A few major news outlets covered its release by briefly reiterating the study's summary, that masking then unvaccinated teachers and improving ventilation with more air were associated with a lower incidence of the virus. Those are common sense measures, and the fact that they seem to work is reassuring but not surprising. Other findings of equal importance in the study, however, were absent from the summary and not widely reported. These findings cast doubt on the impact of many of the most common mitigation measures in American schools. Distancing, hybrid models, classroom barriers, HEPA filters, and, most notably, requiring students masking were each found to not have a statistically significant benefit. In other words, these measures could not be said to be effective. In the realm of science and public health policy outside the U.S., the implications of these particular findings are not exactly controversial. Many of America's peer nations around the world, including the UK, Ireland, all of Scandinavia, France, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and Italy, have exempted kids with varying age cutoffs from wearing masks in classrooms. Conspicuously, there's no evidence of more outbreaks in schools in those countries relative to the schools in the U.S., where the solid majority of kids wore masks for an entire academic year and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. Now, these are, of course, two different websites with two different viewpoints. The final one I'm going to read is from just bbc.com. The only globally accepted consensus is that babies and children under 2 should not wear masks due to the risk of suffocation. The age limit for the use of masks by children is not yet scientific definition, says Adamos Hajipanias, sorry I get this wrong, president of the European Academy of Pediatrics. There have been relatively few studies investigating mask wearing in children due to ethical and logistical challenges. Okay, those few studies which focused on the physical impact of masks on breathing did not find any harmful effects, but the debate around the wider pros and cons has been heated. Proponents of mask wearing argue that masks protect the wearer and those around them from COVID, and that the risk factors of the disease for young children should not be overlooked. Most countries do not vaccinate children under 12, only in exceptional cases, which leaves them comparatively exposed. Serious cases of COVID in young children are still relatively rare. According to a UK study published in July, roughly 1 in 50,000 children with COVID end up in intensive care, and 2 in a million die. And then it goes on to talk about the Delta variant, and we go on and on and on in this circle, which we've been in for, I guess, almost 2 years now. Now look, I've always been fair from the beginning of this crisis, and I understand that a lot of people have died, and I don't take COVID as, regardless of whether there are still people who don't believe it's even real. And yeah, I do believe it's real. But looking at the numbers now and understanding how many people who were the likeliest to become seriously ill have chosen for themselves to get the mitigation measures they need to protect themselves. We've had 2 full years to protect ourselves. Whatever adults do, that needs to be discussed as well. But when it comes to the kids, I feel like they're being completely ignored. The fact that a child has to put something on their face all day long at school, that might be tough for some kids. They get used to it. It's not that big of a deal for a lot of kids, and they'll tell you, whatever, we're just used to it. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. And I don't think that it's harmful. I've heard all these horrible stories about, people breathing their own CO2. I've heard this before. I'm like, no, you don't breathe your own CO2. I mean, sure, you can if it's a balloon or something, but CO2 is a gas. It doesn't collect on your mask. People are just totally misinformed about thinking it's more dangerous than it is to wear it. My issue comes with the fact that my kids, a couple different things. A, that my kids are unable to see their teachers speaking, and I think that's even more harmful for younger children. And B, they're not able to see other classmates talking and actually have a conversation and read intent and read facial expressions, which is so crucial. way more important than we're giving credit for. And C, the fact that the schools are so hypochondriac based now that they're kicking kids out for 10 days just for having a cough. I get it. I understand we want to protect the kids, but what harm is being done? And that is the thing. We can't even talk about it. There aren't any scientists coming out saying here are the real studies and the facts behind why this works. And it may be that it is, that masks do prevent to a high degree. But we have to decide as a society, as the parents, as the taxpayers, as adults, and as a group of people, what we think the percentage rate is worthy. If it's 1% that it stops the transmission, is that really worth all the trouble with masks? I don't know. 5%, 10%, what are the numbers? Nobody's being given any numbers. We're just being given the carrot on a stick. And that's how it's been going the whole time. And that, my friends, is why it's not just lunatics and conspiracy theorists that are against this. It's adults, it's parents, it's those of us who have kids in the school system and pay the taxes and want our kids to get the best education possible. So, that's my gripe. My kid's in there and, he's not coughing heavily or anything. It's just like the fact that, they're, I hate to say the kids, but really they are the future. And, there's been a lot more trouble in schools. Now the kids are getting back in there. I guess there's been a lot more fighting. And a school shut down in Portland the other day because there was too many fightings going on. It's bad because I want to see the kids succeed. I want to see them be happier than, I guess, previous generations. And they don't seem happier. They often seem miserable. So, that's partially up to us as parents and also up to the teachers who I give praise and respect to. I know it's not their fault and they're doing the best they can. And there are a lot of damn good teachers out there. At my son's school, there are some phenomenal teachers who really, you can tell, put in their best effort and try hard. And that, we as parents appreciate. We know that the money gets siphoned off by these freaking, greedy administrators and the whole school administration system, but that's a story for another time. I think I got my gripes out. Damn it. Now my kid's got to be home and take a COVID test. Anyway, that's my complaint for the day, and let me know what you think. Should kids have to wear a mask in school? What about other European countries say that don't? And is it really worth forcing them, even for other medicines, making kids take things just to protect the adults when, under 400 kids have even died from it. And that's a majority of them had pre-existing conditions or were very obese. So it's the reality we live in now. There are certain things you can and can't say or talk about. It's unfortunate because science is science. All I want to see is the papers and the facts, the numbers, and just seems to be hard to get. Talk to you all next time.